Top 10 Terrible Tales of Adoptive Parents. Adoptive parents are heroes in the eyes of our society. They take in children whose families cannot care for them and give them homes, food, clothes, and other basic essentials. At least that is what they are supposed to do. In some, thankfully few, cases adoptive parents choose to neglect, abuse, and even kill the children in their care. 10. Myka Staufer. Rehoming is the euphemism for the process of adoptive parents changing their minds and giving away their adopted child. Although it is an alarmingly common occurrence, no instance of rehoming has been more published than the Huxley Staufer case. Huxley is a young boy from China, who was adopted by the Staufer family in 2017, and helped accelerate Myka's fame as a mommy blogger/influencer. Particularly in regards to Huxley's autism and Staufer's seeming willingness to care for him. That was the story that was portrayed across the family's social media. However, behind closed doors, the truth was anything but. According to the Staufers, Huxley had become too difficult for them to handle, so they decided to place him in a care home, both for his benefit and the benefit of their other children. 9. Tony Spilotro. The psychotic Las Vegas mobster Tony Spilotro was feared by everyone who knew of him. Among his numerous exploits, Spilotro allegedly killed a man by crushing his head in a vice, ran a hole-in-the-wall gang in Las Vegas, and was a chief enforcer for many of Las Vegas's mob-owned casinos. His life was immortalized in the movie Casino, where the character Nicky Santoro was based on him. He also brought his work home with him, affecting his wife Nancy and their adopted son Vincent. According to Vincent's own recollection, he watched his father beat a man unconscious over a gambling debt, and was home when drunken Las Vegas police officers shot up the Spilotro home. 8. Mr. and Mrs. Hammersley. In 1952, Mr. and Mrs. Hammersley adopted a young boy who they named William, in what was supposed to be a happy forever home, caring for him when his mother couldn't. Throughout his childhood, William was whipped repeatedly by his adoptive father, sexually abused by an Anglican minister in what William later wrote was a way for his adoptive parents to gain favor in the church in order to adopt a daughter. Eventually, William dropped out of school and left his adoptive parents' home, full of anger. As a result of his abandonment and subsequent abuse, William fell into drug and alcohol addiction, and depression. He was eventually able to put his life together and live as a productive member of society, but he could never fully shake the demons of his past. William, unlike many adoptees who were adopted into bad situations, was able to legally rectify his situation. In 2019 he applied for an adoption discharge, which under Australian law would nullify his original adoption order and legally recognize his biological parents as his legal parents. 7. John Newmaker. In 1996, pediatric nurse John Newmaker adopted 7-year-old Candace Newmaker, a child who had been in and out of various foster homes her entire life. Candace had difficulty attaching to her adoptive mother and new surroundings and acted out frequently. Newmaker took Candace to a variety of therapists in an attempt to get her to better bond. In 2000, Newmaker took Candace to a psychotherapist named Connell Watkins, who specialized in rebirthing therapy. This therapy, which has been discredited by all psychiatric organizations, involves wrapping a patient in pillows and blankets in order to simulate birth. According to Newmaker, she had hoped that the therapy would lead to her adopted daughter bonding to her as if she had been born to her. Unfortunately, the reality could not be further from the truth. On April 18, 2000, while in Watkins' office, Candace was covered in pillows and blankets forcibly by 5 adults, weighing roughly 600 pounds compared to the 70-pound child. Throughout the 40-minute session, Candace repeatedly said that she could not breathe and that she was going to die. Nobody did anything to alleviate the pressure on Candace, as they were assured it was normal. After 40 minutes, John asked her if she wanted to be born, and Candace responded with the word, "No." It was her last word before slipping into a coma and dying the next day. 6. Woody Allen. Although he never formally adopted his partner Mia Farrow's adopted daughter Sunyi Previn, Farrow's partner Woody Allen had a large role in her upbringing, being the closest thing she ever had to a father. This makes Alan's relationship and marriage to Soon-Yi extremely shocking even by today's social standards. Alan first met Soon-Yi in 1979 when Soon-Yi was adopted by Mia Farrow. Although they did not begin their relationship until Soon-Yi was 20. Nude photos were rumored to have been fond of her when she was allegedly underage, supposedly taken by Alan. This was not the only time Alan was accused of inappropriate behavior with an adopted child. In 1992, Alan's adopted daughter Dylan Farrow accused him of sexually abusing her throughout her childhood beginning when she was 7. According to Alan, he does not listen to the public condemnation of his relationship with the woman whom he helped raise. Soon-Yi says that she is upset by the treatment that Alan has endured in the public sphere in the 2 decades since they've been together. 5. Lori and Britta Warnos. Lori and Britta Warnos were the parents of Diane Warnos and the grandparents of Keith and Aileen Pittman, the children of Diane, and a man named Leodale Pittman. Given the instability in Diane's life, Keith and Aileen went to live with their grandparents in 1960 and were legally adopted by them a few months later, changing their last name to Warnos. According to Aileen, both of her grandparents were alcoholics, and that her adoptive father was extremely abusive. In particular, he would force Aileen to strip naked before heavily beating her. He also sexually abused her and allowed his friends to do the same. In 1971, Aileen, at the age of 14, gave birth to a son fathered by one of Lori's friends, which she was forced to give up for adoption. The abuse continued until Britta Warnos died of liver failure and Lori subsequently kicked Aileen out of the house. The desperate and alone teenager turned to prostitution to survive. This trauma stayed with Aileen for the rest of her life as she drifted across the United States, committing small crimes and engaging in a series of extremely unstable relationships. Eventually, Aileen would become America's first female serial killer, murdering at least 7 men with a handgun after posing as a prostitute to get into their cars. At her trial, her defense used the abuse she suffered during childhood as a mitigating factor in her sentencing. According to several mental health experts, Aileen was suffering from a myriad of mental illnesses brought on by her childhood experiences. 4. Nathan and Pearl Berkowitz. Unlike Aileen Warnos, who was adopted within her family, David Berkowitz was adopted by 2 complete strangers who were totally unprepared to raise a child, with Nathan considering his adoption a mistake. The couple did little to contain their son's violent anger even as he grew bigger and more violent. David's behavior got worse after his adoptive mother Pearl died when he was 14. Nathan soon after remarried and moved the family to Florida, which would negatively affect David's mental state. In order to escape, David joined the army where he learned how to properly handle firearms and excelled as a marksman. This isolation and anger followed David in the army, and in his post-army life, where he returned to New York City and lived alone, working a series of odd jobs. Eventually, mental illness and anger took control of David's life, and a compulsion to kill formed. Berkowitz committed his first murders on Christmas Eve 1975 when he stabbed 2 women, only one of which was identified. He proceeded to terrorize New York City, gunning down random couples with a .44 revolver. He made contact with New York police through a letter in which he declared himself to be the son of Sam and that he would not stop killing. Eventually, he was caught after receiving a parking ticket at the scene of his final murder. 3. Matthew Scully Hicks. In what British authorities now acknowledge was a wrongful adoption, Matthew Scully Hicks and his husband Craig Scully Hicks adopted a baby named Shayla O'Brien, who they renamed Elsie Scully Hicks on May 12, 2016, after several months of pre-adoption care. Matthew subjected her to months of horrific abuse before she succumbed to her injuries on May 25, 2016. According to police and social service reports, Scully Hicks threw the young child down the stairs, shook her, screamed explicitly at her, broke her legs, among other abusive actions. Scully Hicks, who denied abusing his adopted daughter, and claimed that a fall from a changing table had led to her death. Even after he was convicted, he expressed no remorse for his crimes, remaining emotionless throughout his trial and sentencing. Given this lack of remorse and responsibility, Scully Hicks was sentenced to life in prison with no parole for 18 years for his appalling crimes. 2. Lori Valo. Lori Valo was once a normal mother to 2 children, her biological daughter Tylee Ryan and adopted son JJ Valo. This came to an end at an unknown time when the children were murdered and buried on a property owned by Valo's husband Chad Daybell. The children first disappeared in September 2019, and after extended family members contacted authorities to have a welfare check performed. The children were obviously nowhere to be found, leading Valo and Daybell to flee Hawaii, where they were arrested on February 20, 2020 in connection to the children's disappearance. However, they have yet to be charged with murder. Further investigation into the couple revealed that they believed in a number of doomsday conspiracy theories and that the world would be coming to an end soon. As of now, Lori Valo, along with Chad Daybell, are the prime suspects in the deaths of the children as well as the deaths of their previous spouses, which are now under reinvestigation as they sit in prison charged with a series of smaller offenses. 1. Jennifer and Sarah Hart. Jennifer and Sarah Hart were a lesbian couple who adopted 6 African American children from foster care at varying ages. One of their children became famous after a photo of them hugging a police officer at a protest went viral as a sign of unity between 2 communities that had long been at odds. The illusion of a happy, multicultural lesbian family came to an end on March 26, 2018 when Sarah and Jennifer fed each of their children a large quantity of Benadryl, knocking them unconscious, and put them into the family car, and Jennifer Hart drove off of a cliff into the Pacific Ocean. It is believed that the pressure of a CPS investigation into the couple on the suspicion of neglect led to the Harts murdering their children. According to reports filed by the neighbors, the Harts had been starving the children as punishment for minor infractions, and the children were becoming malnourished. Given their reaction to the abuse allegations, it is clear they had some merit.